patreon.com/JOY.
Hey, Cudagy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
The St. Paul Art Collective is thrilled to announce the return of the St. Paul Art Crawl this spring. And new for 2023, the St. Paul Art Crawl will now span 4 weekends from April 14th through May 7th. The St. Paul Art Crawl will feature different districts each weekend, so you will have more opportunities to see more artists and performances. The event will showcase the work of local artists from 10 distinct art districts in St. Paul. This year's crawl promises to be bigger and better than ever, with 26 different venues hosting hundreds of talented artists, live music, dance, and delicious local food. As the longest-running art crawl in the United States, the St. Paul Art Crawl is an iconic event for art lovers and collectors alike. You can explore the city's diverse neighborhoods and experience the unique creative visions of each artist. So wander the St. Paul Art Crawl and discover the wonder of it all. That's 4 weekends spanning April 14th through May 7th. For more information about the Spring Art Crawl and how to donate, visit stpaulartcollective.org.
The Loons are marching in to a new season. Join us Saturday, April 15th at 7:30 p.m. as your Loons take on Orlando City SC. Get your tickets today at mnufc.com.
2023 is here, and you can make it the year of the Eagle with the National Eagle Center. You and your family can enjoy exciting Eagle experiences, including field trips, private habitat tours, and exclusive behind-the-scenes tours. Meet live eagles up close, view bald eagles and golden eagles in the wild, and receive personal one-on-one education with dedicated and knowledgeable Eagle experts as you journey into the world of eagles like never before. Learn more and plan your unforgettable Eagle experience today at nationaleaglecenter.org/experiences.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for rain tonight with a low around 36. Wednesday, rain and snow with a temp falling to about 30. And Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 36. With craft spirits, mouth-watering entrees, and plenty of free parking, 30 Bales in Hopkins is the perfect place to relax and enjoy the best of Midwestern cuisine. Some of the favorites include the devilish eggs, beet salad, short rib pot pie, and decadent burgers. Located at 1106 Main Street in Hopkins or at 30bales.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudagy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Zoe, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is supported by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Yes, they do. Hey, just before we get to the news that you don't hear anywhere else, Zoe, it's kind of a holiday for me. Trumpson pleaded not guilty for 34 counts of falsifying business records related to the hush money payments to porn star Stormy Davis in the during the 2016 campaign. Zoe, it's about time this kind of stuff happens. Who's above the law? Not hopefully nobody, but we know that's different at times, right, Zoe?
Right. No, this is, pretty insane, but also everything surrounding Trump is insane, so not surprising. I just remember watching something between a lawyer of his and a news anchor, and his lawyer was just crazy. I was like angry, like really emotional. It's like I'd be so curious to see, how the court case is going to go inside of the court. I'm sure it's going to be full of a lot of characters.
Right. In 34 counts, so he's can't be too happy with that, and they're going at him, and also a big election in Wisconsin today. We really get out and vote. You natives out there listening here, it's so important, and everybody that's listening across Turtle Island, especially Wisconsin and Illinois, please get out and vote. It's very important. So, without further ado, Zoe, let's get with Ogimaa with the news that you don't hear anywhere else. Welcome, Ogimaa.
Bonjour, Anin relatives. This is Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe. I am a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota, and I have some news and information for you here today on Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. First thing I want to talk about is environmental. You can go over to communitiesunitedbywater.org, and there is a really important letter to the Canadian ministers that you can sign to support with. The Cross-Border Organizing Working Group of the Line 5 Coalition is an international group of activists and Indigenous leaders who are working to shut down Enbridge's Line 5. And they have drafted a letter to key Canadian ministers asking those ministers to stop misusing a 1977 treaty to keep Enbridge's pipeline in service. Canada has formally invoked Article 6 of the 1977 Transit Pipelines Treaty twice to keep the 70-year-old Line 5 in operation. On October 4th in 2021, in response to Michigan Governor Whitmer's order to shut down the pipeline after a ship's anchor struck it, causing significant risks to the Straits of Mackinac. And then the second time they did it was August 29th, 2022, when the Bad River Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, discovered a serious erosion beneath the pipeline, leaving it unsupported and at significant risk of failure with a severe weather event. They intend to deliver the letter on April 24th, the day after Line 5 turns 70 years old, which is 20 years past its planned life expectancy. So if you want to join, you want to sign this letter, head on over to communitiesunitedbywater.org, sign the letter as an organization or as an individual, and there is a copy of the letter which is going to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Natural Resources, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, and the Minister of Indigenous Crown Relations in Canada. It's also going to be copied to the UN Special Reporter on Human Rights and the Environment. So many other U.S. Organizations and representatives as well, including Deb Haaland, the Secretary of the Interior, and many other organizations and people here in the United States. So head on over to Communities United by Water to take care of that. It's so important that we take the time when we can to do something like that, to add our name to a petition, to do the things that we need to do to make sure that people are informed of the things that matter to us here as Indigenous people and as allies. I want to remind everybody that today is the Prove It First Day at the Minnesota State Capitol. The Tamarack Water Alliance, those Protect the Boundary Waters, Friends of the Boundary Waters, and many other organizations are involved. They're heading to the Minnesota State Capitol to support the Prove It First legislation, which talks about the concerns about the proposed Rio Tinto Talon mine. The Prove It First law is a protection that says before risky sulfide mining moves forward in Minnesota, there should be at least one example in the United States where it has been done safely. This is partner legislation to another really great piece of legislation, which is the Taxpayer Protection Act. And the Taxpayer Protection Act is similar as well, would require these mining companies to have enough money in their pockets, enough money on hand, should there be an issue or pollution coming in, that they are responsible for paying for it. This prevents these types of companies from coming into Minnesota, taking care of their project, waiting for the project to break down and making all of their money and moving it, offshore, and then filing bankruptcy. So, just a reminder here too that the global mining giant Rio Tinto Kennecott controls the mineral leases and Talon Metals, and is really has a bad track record of environmental destruction and human rights abuses throughout the world. On March 6th, Rio Tinto agreed to pay a $15 million settlement to a 7-year bribery scandal regarding an underdeveloped country for an iron ore deposit in Guinea, which is one of the most valuable in the world. And because of that company's history, Minnesota needs to be incredibly careful. These mining companies spend millions of dollars on lobbyists and marketing, and all in an effort to downplay the dangers of their project, especially to local communities. And here in Aiken County, Minnesota, that is more apparent than ever. So before any official permitting begins, make sure you head over to the Tamarack Water Alliance website at tamarackwateralliance.com, or tamarackwateralliance.org. You can head over to Friends of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area at friendsofthebwca.org, and take care of your duty to make known to your representatives how you feel about talon and nickel mining here in Minnesota. Another exciting thing that's local here to Minnesota, for those of you who do not yet know, there's very exciting. The project formerly known as the Lower Phelan Creek Project is now Wakan-Tipi Awayakampi. I think I said that right. They announced their name change yesterday, so take a minute and go head over to Wakan-Tipi on Facebook and take a look at what changes are coming along with that announcement. Really excited about that. Hoping maybe we can get somebody on to talk about it. They have done really great work in the St. Paul, Twin Cities area, and it's really important that we support when those organizations have those changes. Up in Canada again, there is a case that was going on where parents were fighting with the Providence to have their son's Indigenous name on their birth certificate in British Columbia. And they finally took the fight to the British Supreme Court, the BC or British Columbia Supreme Court. And the Smith family, after 13 months of fighting, they have now received a birth certificate that represents the accurate spelling of their son's name. Crystal Smith and Raymond Shaw were challenging the British Columbia's Vital Statistics Agency to honor the traditional Kwakala characters for their baby son's name. And according to the Provincial Ministry of Health in Canada, going forward, the ability to claim names will be open to all Indigenous people on birth certificates, regardless of age. And they hope that it will become a wider movement of recognition. The British Columbia in Canada has the highest diversity of Indigenous languages in the country, with 34 languages and 90 dialects. And it was just absurd, according to these parents, that they weren't able to honor those characters on their child's birth certificate. So really excited that that barrier has been removed in Canada. So that is an exciting piece here for our relatives of the North. I'm not sure what the laws are here in the United States, but that might be something to look into. This has been Ogimaa Ikwe with news on Native Roots Radio, and back to you, Robert.
Hey, Pinigigi Ogimaa with the news. Hey, up next, former state rep of North Dakota and our friend Ruth Buffalo. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders.
cherishing and honoring our children.
When we honor and take care of our spirit,
There will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Roll up your sleeves and enjoy some refreshments. On Friday, April 7th, the Indigenous Roots Cultural Center will offer free coffee and tea to anyone who gets a COVID vaccine between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. You'll also receive a $50 gift card. The event is open to the public, and while walk-ins are welcome, early registration is encouraged at interfaithaction.org. So protect yourself by getting vaccinated while enjoying some free coffee and tea. That's Friday, April 7th at the Indigenous Roots Cultural Center in St. Paul.
The Loons are marching in to a new season. Join us Saturday, April 15th at 7:30 p.m. as your Loons take on Orlando City SC. Get your tickets today at mnufc.com.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, thank you, Zoe. Hey, we're so proud and always happy to have former North Dakota State Representative Ruth Buffalo on, and just to play catch up. And I know there's a lot of news going on, but let's take a deep breath and see what Ruth has been up to, because I follow you on Facebook, Ruth, and you seem busier now than you were when you were state representative. Welcome and welcome back, Ruth.
Yes, Madzigidads, thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. Sound like real professional and everything, and you look good too. You got a nice background. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on. We just mentioned it a little bit in the beginning of the show, but it's kind of a holiday here for us here on Native Roots Radio to see Trump indicted on 34 counts. Nobody's above the law, right, Ruth?
Indeed. Yeah, it sort of hopefully will be some sort of semblance of justice. That we just have so much barriers to believing in the current justice system, criminal justice system, and so, yeah, it's interesting to see things unfold, definitely.
It is. But let's move on and let's see what you've been up to. And I know I want to ask you about Leonard and any updates on that, but I know you're doing a lot of other things like, stand up against sexual assault and things like that was always in your jam, and now you're able to really do it. So, Ruth, what have you been up to?
Sure. Thank you. As you know, this month is the month of April is Stand Against Sexual Assault Month. And so, First Nations Women's Alliance is hosting a conference here in Bismarck at the Quality Inn Suites. We started today at half a day, and we had Monty Awan Frank from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe Indians, or Chippewa Indians, excuse me. And so he is so knowledgeable in so many different areas, and from tribal emergency management to EMTs, paramedics, everything, and sharing his story of his daughter who was shot and killed May 26th of 2021. in the Brooklyn Park area. And so I had the opportunity to hear him speak in New Orleans. It was a conference hosted by MUSAC, strengthening sovereign responses to sexual assault and sex trafficking in Indian country. So we're just very pleased to have him here in Bismarck and to share his story and his expertise. And so, yep, that's one thing that we have, going today. I also sit on the Not Invisible Act Commission, and so we're gearing up for field hearings across the country as early as the middle of this month. Actually, next week in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We will be coming to Minneapolis June 6th through the 8th. And so just want to make sure I put that on everybody's radar that hopefully if you can attend, we need to hear from you. Not Invisible Act was birthed into existence by many others, years of work, but also led by then Congresswoman Deborah Haaland, who's now Secretary of Interior at Department of Interior. So yeah, that's kind of some of the things that we've been working on.
Wow, that's intense. And how you've been to Washington a few times since we've spoke, and I've seen pictures with you with Deb Haaland. How is she doing, and how she's holding up, and what are you collaborating with her on? I know you guys are good friends and allies.
Yeah, it's always really good to see her. She is a leader, a fierce leader for us, and definitely do not envy her in the position that she is in. She's got a tough seat to be in during these times, but she, is still very much caring about Indian country and what's happening in Indian country. She has this amazingly huge heart, and so we do need to continue to keep her in our prayers and to send her good vibes, good thoughts, because that stuff does work, especially for those that are in those challenging positions.
Right, exactly. And she can kind of get it from both directions too, so that is we want to put out our prayers for Deb Haaland, because it's not easy to be out there, and she's doing a great job. And I'm glad that you're friends and that you work together, because I know your support means a lot to a lot of people out there in Turtle Island, Ruth.
Well, lots of good odds. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So have you spoken with Leonard Peltier lately?
Yes, I have. Gosh, a couple days ago, I believe. He seemed in really good spirits. You only get 15 minutes to talk at a time. So when I first started hearing from him, it was about a year ago, but talked very fast, to squeeze in as much as he could or can within those 15 minutes. But he definitely sounds in good spirits. He, of course, is very elderly, 78 years old, does not need to be in prison. He is he needs to be back here in North Dakota. His tribal nation chairman, Jamie Azure, has stated over and over again that they are waiting for him to come back to his original homelands of the Turtle Mountains here in what is present day North Dakota. As you may know, Leonard is in very poor health, but at this time he is currently not sick. He's doing well, but he still needs medical attention. So that, is not going to go away. He needs medical attention. He needs the specialty medical attention for a number of health conditions.
I just got to give you, I don't know if you've heard this or that Ho-Chunk Nation under my guidance has also sent a letter to the president just within the last month for his release. And I think the more people reach out to their Congress people, state senators, and anyone that will listen to please let Leonard come home.
Yes, definitely important to his freedom is so important. We need him back here in North Dakota. We need him to walk out of Coleman 1, USP Coleman 1, and return safe, sound, and whole to his homelands here in what is present-day North Dakota. Many people, as we know, are continuing to pray for him and just wanting to uplift and acknowledge those that have continued to work for his freedom and justice since day one.
So one of the things too, if you have time, Ruth, for another segment after this, I'd like to talk about a little of the things that are happening in North Dakota. Some of these bills that are coming up, and just your reaction on there. I know you put them on your Facebook, and maybe we can dig a little deep, or at least talk a little bit about them, because these states are acting all different than other states, and it's just kind of mind-blowing what's going on around Turtle Island.
Yes, indeed.
You don't mind if you can stay on for another segment, or at least part of one for us? I know you're
sure, that's fine.
I appreciate that. Well, why don't we take a quick break here? You're listening to Native Roots Radio, and we're here with former State Representative Ruth Buffalo. That's hard for me to say, Ruth. I always think of you as our state. You're free, so now you can do a lot more. And,
exactly.
I've seen you doing a lot more. We'll be right back. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm woke. Whoa.
Many car dealers will quote safety stats, but firsthand experience really tells the story. When I bought my 2017 Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota, the service manager told me it was one of their safest vehicles ever made. Then I saw it for myself. A car hit me at 35 miles per hour, and the Sienna saved me. Its design absorbed the collision, and although it took a wallop, I walked away, and I now have a 2022 Sienna. When it comes to safety, I personally vouch for Toyotas. Be safe and get one today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Roll up your sleeves and enjoy some refreshments. On Friday, April 7th, the Indigenous Roots Cultural Center will offer free coffee and tea to anyone who gets a COVID vaccine between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. You'll also receive a $50 gift card. The event is open to the public, and while walk-ins are welcome, early registration is encouraged at interfaithaction.org. So protect yourself by getting vaccinated while enjoying some free coffee and tea. That's Friday, April 7th at the Indigenous Roots Cultural Center in St. Paul.
Hi, this is Laura. Tune to Food Freedom Radio this weekend. We will be talking about the Regenerative Agriculture Food Systems Summit held last week in Chicago. Joining me will be Erica Campbell with Kiss the Ground. Kiss the Ground is more than a movie. And John Kemp, founder of Advancing Eco-Agriculture and a top expert in the field of biological and regenerative farming. Food Freedom Radio, Saturday at 8 a.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., or anytime via podcast. Food Freedom Radio.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
New at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Kuma wood stoves and fireplace inserts. American-made, sturdy and efficient wood heaters. All models qualify for 30% tax credit you can earn for installing efficient and renewable wood heat. Come see the new wood-burning Kuma stoves and fireplace inserts.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has been selling wood-burning products since 1977. Kuma wood burners are hard-working home heaters made from heavy, laser-cut steel. Kuma stoves and fireplace inserts have cast iron doors and large self-cleaning glass windows You can see the firelight and feel the heat from their efficient fire. One of Woodland's many choices to make fire work for you and your home.
Work with the chimney and installation experts. They not only install, but will guide you if you want to install yourself. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for rain tonight with a low around 36. Wednesday, rain and snow with a temp falling to about 30. And Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 36. Clean ingredients and bold flavors are the hallmarks of 30 Bales in Hopkins. Their signature burgers, seasonal salads, and carefully crafted entrees celebrate the best of the Midwest. Located across the street from the Hopkins Center for the Arts at 1106 Main Street with plenty of free parking. More at 30bales.com.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Clinic, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, we are here with former North Dakota State Representative Ruth Buffalo, and we were always really excited to hear from you, Ruth. And being a junior elder, I'm an elder in my troop, in my tribe. Jeez. I'm just really proud of you in a good way. All the things that you're doing and have done for your community, and it really means a lot to me that you're on with us tonight speaking your truth. So I appreciate you, Ruth.
Mods, thank you. I appreciate it.
Ruth, let's talk a little bit about North Dakota for a second here. I know the governor vetoed a bill, and can you explain that a little bit about the pronouns and what's going on?
Yeah, and so North Dakota, as you know, is completely night and day compared to Minnesota. North Dakota, we just to kind of provide some context to the listeners, in North Dakota, we are in a very bright red trifecta where the governor and then the majority of in the House and the Senate are held by one party, which is the Republican Party or the GOP. And we know in Minnesota, it's the opposite. It's a blue trifecta in Minnesota. And so, yes, the pronoun bill, so it's so interesting to learn the process. And I hope that we can educate and raise more awareness to where everyday people understand these processes within the state legislative sessions that are occurring right now. In North Dakota, we also don't meet every year. We meet every other year for 80 days here in North Dakota. And so in visiting with different LGBTQIA plus advocates, this particular bill that you mentioned, I believe it was Senate Bill 2391, it's officially dead. So it will not become law. There was some actions that were taking place within the state legislature where the governor's veto, so he vetoed this, and the Senate overrode his veto, and then the House, though, did not override his veto. And so it stands where this bill is now dead. But in talking to LGBTQIA plus advocates, this particular bill, Senate Bill 2391, the pronoun bill was the most devastating of all these bills that are being pumped out of our state legislature. And so, back when, what was it, 2017, when the camps and everything were being held down at Standing Rock, there were a number of harmful bills that were being pumped out of our state legislature at that time, to run over pedestrians, to legally or lawfully run over pedestrians, and the right to peaceful assembly, just all these harmful bills back then. And this is what it reminds me of, but now it's targeting the LGBTQIA plus community. And so it's so important that we pay attention to what's happening at every level of government, because everything's connected. Back in 2017, there was also a concerted effort from a city commissioner, county commissioner, and the state legislator to dismantle the refugee resettlement program that we have in Fargo. And so thankfully that this bill did die, the one that you mentioned, the pronoun bill. So much things that are happening that are very harmful, and quite honestly a distraction to what really needs to be done in our state legislature. Also to mention, it's also important to mention that, although we have a GOP majority within our state government and our state legislature, it does not reflect our people of North Dakota. The governor and the Greater North Dakota Chamber of Commerce have worked on getting this. It's this workforce initiative to recruit people from across the country to come to North Dakota to fill these vacant job openings. And it's called Find the Good Life in North Dakota. Well, they're making it very clear of who they want to come to North Dakota and who they don't want to come to North Dakota. So, good on Governor Burgum for vetoing this bill and standing up and against his party. And so many people have shared, he's not going to get reelected as a result, but you have to stand for something. And this is something that he definitely needed to take a stronger stance on. And so, he's taking courage, but we need him to take it a step further and do more along those lines. But yes.
Yeah, Ruth, and I remember too, the voting suppression and now gerrymandering that basically got you off as a state representative. I mean, those things are real and really happening. Yeah, I want to change the gears just a little bit. Well, one thing I want to do, let me back up a second. I noticed too that now you can go 80 miles an hour through North Dakota. Is driving, or is what happened there?
No, that also, I have to double check on that one. Last I heard it was vetoed as well. I'm pretty sure that one also they were not successful in overriding the governor's veto. So it was those two particular pieces of legislation that the governor vetoed, and I believe the veto stands.
Like 20 years ago, when I was driving old cars and being a high school teacher, my cars didn't even get up to 80 miles an hour. So that's a good thing. But I want to switch gears real quick. And Ruth, is your son taking after you? Is he a big baller? Is he a basketball player now? Is that what's going on? Is that what I saw?
He's decent. He's always got a lot of room to grow and improve, but he is actually taller than me at this moment in time. So, like, legit taller than me. We joke and say certain types of shoes are sort of like man heels, or those that identify as men, because they have those bubbles in there. But he like kicks off his shoes and stands flat-footed. He's like looking down at me. So yeah, he's got heart. He's a fighter, and he is talented.
So how old is he?
He is 16, just turned 16 in January.
Time has flown. And then your daughter, she's in her second year in college now?
Yes. Yep. She's in her second year in college, getting her generals done at a local community college here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And she's looking to transfer to the Southwest, to IAIA. So.
Awesome. And where did you go?
Myself, I started out at Concordia College. I did not finish there, and then finished it was Huron University, and then it transitioned into Tatanka University. So yeah, that's where I finished undergrad.
Concordia in St. Paul?
No, Moorhead, Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There's a couple of them. I had to make sure.
Yeah.
Ruth, I really appreciate you coming in and speaking your truth. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with here in the next few minutes? I really, Wendy has always said, you got to ask them what they want to talk about. So I'm trying to do that in a good way. Ruth, what would you like to talk about here in the last part of our segment with you?
just really to stress, I really appreciate you putting that in the bottom there, to continue to put pressure on President Joe Biden for Leonard Peltier's freedom. Also to keep in mind and to lift up his family members, his, down to the little ones, the greats and his family members, his children, to, because when one person is incarcerated, as we know, unfortunately, it directly impacts not only that individual, but the family and the communities and future generations. We know that our Native people are unfortunately overrepresented in every criminal justice system, and predominantly in the federal prisons. We are but a sliver of representation, or a small percentage of us, we're represented in the United States population, but yet we are the highest percentage represented in federal prison. And, we have to start asking these questions. Why is that? And so there's so much work that needs to be done, but we definitely need our elder Leonard Peltier free. We need him to walk out of those doors at USP Coleman 1. And we look forward to when he is free, because quite honestly, as they say, when Leonard Peltier is free, we are free. And so to that end, I really want to encourage the listeners to also put pressure on their tribal nation leaders. Imagine, this was shared with me the other day, that imagine if every single tribal nation leader put all their other asks aside, and solely focused on one ask to President Joe Biden, and that is to free Leonard Peltier. Imagine if that happened and that was the number one priority, because it's all connected. Every single issue we face, water, access to healthcare, economic development, everything is connected to Leonard Peltier's freedom.
Absolutely. Wow, Ruth, thank you so much. And I don't know if you know this, but at the end of every show, I always do a little spiel, and I always say, either I do or Wendy says, "Free Leonard Peltier now." And we're really encouraged that you're working with Leonard, and it's a thing that we really need to do. I mean, you look at my history of me being alive. The person that shot and killed John Lennon's out of prison. Person that shot Ronald Reagan, a president, he's out of prison, but yet we have our Leonard, who's was set up in many ways, is in prison, and we know by former FBI agents that there's a vendetta against not only him but Native Americans.
Indeed. And imagine if we just had some compassionate conversations with the powers that be, not only President Joe Biden, but within the FBI. There's a great amount of healing that needs to happen, and we need those compassionate conversations all the way around.
Well, Ruth, I just want to say, Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for stopping in. It's always our pleasure to hear your good words, and keep the fight up and stay in touch. And again, thank you so much for what you do for everybody in Turtle Island here. Really, I thank you so much.
Lots of good odds, and take care of yourself and your family as well. Lots of good odds.
You too, Peeny Gigi. Thanks. Well, that was Ruth Buffalo, former state representative of North Dakota. We are so excited to have her. We're going to take off here, and for a short break, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Your Blue Line Extension Project wants to hear from you. We are working on extending the Blue Line light rail into North Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park, and connecting it to our growing transit system. Tell us about your neighborhood, your business, your family, and what you need from your Blue Line. Learn more and share more of your story at yourblueline.org. That's yourblueline.org.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Howl!
Wow, that was a good one, Zoe. We did
Thank
good, you and I. Hey, so that was exciting to hear from Ruth.
Yeah, lots of things there. I was like looking up some of the stuff she was talking about, especially the Not Invisible Act. I had not heard about that. I don't know if you've heard about that before.
No, I haven't. Do you know much about it, or?
Yeah, just from what I'm seeing here, it was passed in 2019. It was signed into law in October, and basically established a commission that is a multi-agency effort to enhance protections and basic guidelines to engage, coordinate, and consult with tribal governments, survivors, families, and experts to help understand the needs of tribal communities. Especially in regards to missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. So this is a federal initiative. We have our own in Minnesota, which we do talk about often, our own MMIW task force. But it's really big to see a federal branch of this happening.
Yeah. Well, in your lifetime, and I was just thinking about this, Zoe, have you felt like there's been, because I know in my lifetime, it seems like the last few years, there's been a lot of good things happening for Native Americans. And partially, I feel like after the big Standing Rock that former state representative Ruth Buffalo was talking about, we were out there and the eighth fires went everywhere. And, we have TV, movies. It's a more of a, not of a renaissance, but it's more of there's books out there. There's a lot of things that are happening promoting Native Americans. Do you feel that as a young person that you're seeing it more, or how do you feel about that?
Definitely. I think kids are growing up with a lot more representation than what I had when I was young. And, I'm born in 99, so it wasn't that long ago. But, all I had was like Pocahontas. And then later on we had like the Avatar movie. And, that's from the lens of a child. Like, obviously there's even more things happening when it comes to politics and just visibility for Native people, Indigenous people all over Turtle Island. That's been really incredible. And it's because of people like Ruth Buffalo that have, created that, open those doors for us to follow in their footsteps. And also, I think with the younger generation too, we're kind of redefining what those venues are, because things do need to change drastically.
Yeah, I agree, and I think being a former high school teacher and still seeing a lot of my former students around, especially the younger ones, because when you're teaching for 30 some years, some of your former students are darn near 50. So I'm talking about the younger ones, and they don't seem to have the hangups that a lot of generations have, whether it's people's sexual preference, marijuana, all these things that are more open to your generation, and that's always enlightening and positive to hear and see for myself that your generation's pretty open to everything.
Right. I was actually just saw something about this on Facebook of just how we kind of live under this false notion in society that everything's supposed to kind of suck. Like, work isn't supposed to be fun, or, things aren't supposed to be enjoyable. But like, who created that notion, and why do we continue to do that? And I think the younger generations are really pushing against that because we want to enjoy our lives. Especially, I mean, I always go back to thinking about what my ancestors couldn't enjoy, what they had to go through for us to be here, for us to have rights and take up space in good ways. And part of that for me looks like, trying to enjoy my life to the fullest extent, while also, of course, being strongly connected to my community. But no, I think we're in, as crazy as times are, I am really, really hopeful because things are really changing, even with the Trump, indictment. And it's just, there's a lot coming out right now, globally and also nationally of, people who are not okay, who should not be in positions of power. And things are just starting to get shaken up a little bit. And then I think that's also why we see so much legislation being passed right now to quiet protesters, to oppress LGBTQ folks. It's kind of like what does my dad always says something along the lines of like it's the white man's last gasp, which sounds dramatic, but in the sense of things, like our world is becoming more and more connected in a lot of ways, and also just clearer on, I think, the path where we headed. So I'm looking
Right.
forward to the future, hopefully.
Well, that's awesome because I don't know. I think I brought this up to you before on air, but as a teacher, I said this thing that's going on here in the United States is not going to last forever. It's an experiment, and it's run by people, and I was telling my native kids, you guys need to get ready. Whether it's food sovereignty, um, uh, eating healthier, but need to be ready to take over. And I always kid with them and say, "You guys aren't ready." But, that's kind of in the line of what your father was talking about, is that, we have to go back to our old ways of thinking, and we have to amplify our people that are keeping our sacred things sacred. And so, yeah, I agree with your father. It's a crazy time to be alive in a lot of ways too. When we talk about North Dakota, how bright red that is, and it's just a few hours from the Twin Cities where we're at, um, that it's almost a different country in some of these red-based states. So we're lucky to be here in Minnesota, and we're keeping our fingers crossed in Wisconsin that the election today goes well, because if they lose a Supreme Court over there, and they they could have overturned Biden's victory in this last election if the Supreme Court was not. I think it was 5-4 or 4-3, something like that. That voted to ratify the results of the election. Well, if we have a red state in Wisconsin, we could have maybe a different president right now.
Right. Right. No, it's scary to think about, and that's why it is important to, be connected to something other than what the Western world provides for us. I think going into nature, being a part of community, finding it where you can in healthy ways, I think is so critical in moments like these, especially because it's safer for us to be around each other now. I mean, COVID's not over. it's never over really. But, you know, I've just been trying to take more advantage of the time to be with my relatives right now, especially my older relatives who, you know, are getting up there, and their knowledge is really important to retain before they leave, you know.
Well, we got less than a minute, Zoe, and I wanted to ask you, and I don't know this, but did you end up with COVID these last 3 years?
Yeah, I somehow narrowly escaped it, and then I got it in September of this year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be one of the ones, but, you know, it almost feels like everyone's going to get it at this rate. But yeah, that wasn't fun.
Well, I have to knock on wood. I'm double boosted, so if I get it, it won't be severe as some. And I have not gotten it, and Wendy has, and we've been at the same places. So maybe I'm just a carrier. I don't know. I don't know how. I know I was when I was a school teacher. I would bring stuff home, and you know, she'd get sick, and I wouldn't get sick. So I don't know. Maybe I'm one of the lucky ones that it's unlucky. Hey, Zoe, thanks a lot for everything, manning the ship here and personing the ship here, I should say, and all your support in the background. We had Ruth Buffalo on. Thank you, former state representative Ruth Buffalo, and of course, Ogimaa with the news that you don't hear anywhere else. If you are listening to the show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plenty Coops. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground, is blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, and vote. Free Leonard Peltier now. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. April is National Pet Month.